All right. I would like to welcome everyone today. I'm going to share this video rather than doing a webinar. Just to get us kicked off, my name is Sarah Betts, and I am on the support team here at Olark, olark.com. And I wanted to talk to our founder, Ben Congleton, today. Because as you know, a lot of us are just really kind of stressed about where we are at right now. Ben has been running this company for over 10 years and has seen some stuff. So rather than try to write up this long question and answer kind of discussion, I wanted to go ahead and just jump on a video call. So Ben, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Ben Congleton. I started Olark in 2007. It was called Abla back then. And we founded the company during the Great Recession 2008. So that was our starting point at doing things. And I think through running a company for that long period of time, you kind of deal with some ups and downs. Though, the high level, we've been in the bull market for the last 11 years. So basically, since the company was started, you're welcome. The economy's doing great. But other than that, yeah, I'm happy to kind of talk about crisis and how I think about that as a resilient founder who's been through a lot of stuff. So I appreciate you, Sarah, for setting up this call.
Awesome. So Ben, right now, tell us about the size of Olark and what your role is as a CEO right now.
Okay, Olark is roughly 30 people. Fluctuates a little bit depending on whether we're bringing new hires or if someone has transitioned on. But that's roughly the size of the company. And my role right now, among dealing with other crises, is I'm currently head of marketing, running our marketing department, and I'm serving as CEO, which means that I kind of am the more public-facing person in the company. Like I try to think about things in the future. I try to make everyone in Olark kind of see where we're going as a company, give us a vision for the next 5 years, get us to think a little bit outside the current moment, and sort of direct us into a future that we all want to build together. And so that is a challenge to kind of do that and also run day-to-day marketing. But it is the life of a startup founder. It's just basically being able to take on whatever challenge the business needs at the time.
Awesome. So you're really tied into where the company is at directionally, but also that face of the company. And I'm sure you're getting a really good pulse of what our own customers are going through as far as, you know, taking their own temperature about what kind of decisions they're making and where they're looking. How do you, as a founder and CEO, caring for all these people and image, keep yourself grounded in the future and not get swayed by that momentary panic, especially when we don't know how long this is?
It's a good question. I think it comes, and I can only speak from my own experience. I'm just a very optimistic person. Like I believe in the power of humanity to overcome. I see crisis situations as not kind of like the downfall of humanity, but really like the opportunities to bring us closer together. And so for me, just looking out there in the world, seeing groups of people getting together that aren't normally talking and trying to solve these problems together. I mean, I think Congress is actually doing something, which is, they don't do that often. So that's exciting. I think that just looking at, small acts of kindness that I've seen from people offering to deliver groceries to elderly neighbors, to just the kind and tone of conversation out there gives me a lot of optimism that this is the type of event that's bringing us closer as people and as humans, and we're all out there kind of looking out for each other. Now, that's just the way I see the world. I see the world as a glass half full, maybe overflowing world. And along that journey, there's certainly bumps and negativity, and there's hard times. And but I think that's sort of where my frame begins. My frame begins with a sense of optimism for us overcoming this together, and just faith in humanity, that this is in events like these, they impact everyone's lives, but they impact them negatively and positively. But I like to believe that the positive impact is greater than the negative impact.
I love it, and I love that about you. Trying to think about how to phrase this. So you are an optimistic person by nature, and I would imagine that that influences how you approach your employees and the people
Hmm.
that you work with. So last week, you sent an email out to all of Olark
Hmm.
saying, here's where we are, here's our goals, here's what changes, here's what doesn't change.
Yeah.
Some founders are afraid to be that transparent. So what benefit do you see to being transparent and contrast with some of those other decisions that you could have made? And have you made those decisions in the past and what happened?
I would say that I generally have a hard time like not being direct and just kind of saying things how they are. I think that is not always the right thing to do. It really isn't the right thing to do in all situations. But I think that my default in approaching Olark and approaching our team is to treat everyone like adults, and that we all need to be in this together. And that's sort of my default. That's the place in which I approach, a kickoff. Um, Now, I I have heard in the past, and I think like this may be just by nature. It could be like in a reaction. Like Matt, actually, my co-founder, he actually worked at a company that um, I think told everyone they were laying off half the team like 2 weeks before Christmas. Now, the company themselves had been like in dire straits for a while, but it was a huge surprise for people to end up in that situation. And I think that that energy coming from me and Matt is just like we never want to be in that situation. And oh my God, isn't it a lot easier just to have the real conversation with the team than try to like hide information from the team and like
Absolutely.
act like nothing is wrong. Now, I know there's different philosophies around that, right? Because some people worry that like, oh, if we're direct to the team and stuff's not going so well, we might lose momentum. We might like impact people emotionally. We might slow down the progress. It would actually help lift us out of this problem in the first place. And I think that is a reasonable frame, but it's not the frame that I take. I think that like my belief is that when people know what they're up against, it brings them together and it causes them to work together and think of creative solutions to problems that you as an individual might not have even thought about doing.
Absolutely.
So, and I kind of like being in it with people. I think a lot of times people talk about the CEO role as being a very lonely job, and I think that I don't feel that way. I feel that I'm in it with the team, and by being direct and honest with what's going on, it really helps me build that connection with the team, so that when we are in good times or in bad times, we feel like we have each other's back, and it's not just like I don't know the business versus the employee, if that makes any sense. It's a business
Absolutely.
with the employee.
Yeah. No, I mean, maybe it's just me and my personality, but I know working at other places that if something's wrong, and if there's no official line, you make up stories because you got to fill in the blanks. So
Yeah.
I personally appreciate the transparency. Um, so, having been through that recession before,
Mhm.
are there certain decisions that you made that in hindsight you're thinking, man, I am so glad I did that? Or the opposite? How is that influencing your decision making now?
What's really interesting about this, and it's a good question. I think like there's two ways of looking at this. I think that from the beginning of Olark, we were super cheap, we were super conservative, and we were always saving money. And that was because, unlike many companies, we didn't raise money to speak of. We raised $65,000. I think the total number is $85,000 total. Was the total amount of outside capital put into Olark. And what do we do with that money? We basically just paid rent and went to Costco. Like that was
I've
all we
heard of
did.
the ramen
We
feasts.
didn't.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, we like. It's funny. We had a box of ramen we bought from Costco that sat in the office for probably 5 years because no one really liked ramen, but we bought it because it was
because that's
symbolic.
what
We
you
did a
do.
lot of falafel basically, but like, uh, but I think that scrappiness kind of pervaded the early days of Olark, and it kept us always, cash was always a concern for us. We never really hit that like, hey, we raised a bunch of money, we need to spend it mode. Now, I think in hindsight, that meant that when we were doing really well, in which we were doing really, really well for a period of time. I think that it kind of slowed us from putting on the gas a bit. And I think that was sort of a, that was the cost of coming from this mentality of being very scrappy. But in today's world, in this current context, I think that thinking back to those scrappy roots and thinking about how we were able to more or less build a company, multi-million-dollar company on $85,000, and 4 people hang out in a house for the most part without a car. Like, we were so cheap, we never ate out, we didn't have a car, we're just in this house. We would have revenue milestones, like when we hit X dollars a day, we're gonna get a grill. Okay, like we were like very, very, very scrappy. Like everything was from Craigslist. Like we did not buy anything new, and that was just all we knew. And I think part of it was because we're coming out of college, we're used to being really cheap. And so for us, like going through the recession, like honestly, I don't think any of us even noticed it was a recession. Like I think like from our standpoint, like it was basically like we're living like college students, and we weren't paying ourselves anything and eating a little bit into our savings, but the company basically just kept us going at that stage. And I think that if I was a founder today and I had a team of 3 and I had raised, the kind of money that a lot of these founders are raising nowadays, like maybe $1 million or $500,000, I would think a little bit more about like, I don't know how long this thing is going to last. Do I really believe in what I'm building? If I really believe in what I'm building, like I might be willing to make some sacrifices now such that I don't have to think about them later. Because I can tell you this, that it's so much easier to make a decision or a decision framework in advance of running into a problem than having to deal with the decision-making framework, and the crisis at the same time. So you might be able to put some guardrails on. If you're a 3-person company, you might just be able to sit down and be like, hey guys, like, what is the minimal burn, the minimum amount of money that we can really spend right now? That, everyone can eat and everyone can sleep and they have a place to live, but we aren't contributing to our 401ks, and we don't need to eat out every meal. Like, how do we cut actual costs in the business right now so that if this thing lasts longer than we expect, like we're still around long enough to get to the point where we see success. And I think at least for me, getting Olark off the ground took a very long time. And I think the more time you can buy yourself as an early stage founder, the better position you're going to be in to see success. And I think that in a recession, there's going to be a lot of impatient people that are unwilling to make sacrifices. They're just going to run out of money, and they're going to run out of will. And dealing with running out of money is basically more or less death sentence to most companies. Like some will luck through it in heroic stories and they'll become Airbnb, but for the most part, they just die.
Yeah. So that's great advice to founders. And it sounds kind of boring. Be conservative, look at what you've got, really sit down and review, and do what you can. Are there tools or resources that you have found for founders that have been especially helpful in doing that? Because it's hard to go it alone. And I know that there's a lot of pressure to just spend, raise. Like, what is the antidote to that?
It's a good question. I don't have a great answer for it. I think I live in Silicon Valley. I have friends that raise plenty of VC money. I think as someone who's bootstrapped in that environment, I think you're just used to not having a lot. I think when you're used to having a lot, it makes it more difficult to have a little. So I think, maybe talking to some people that have bootstrapped before might be a good idea. Or just make sure you're getting a diversity of opinions when you're getting advice is probably the best way of looking at it. Certainly people with different risk thresholds, people with different levels of pessimism and optimism about the future. I mean, I'm just one data point. So there's plenty of other ways of riding out the storm.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? Tips, advice, or cheers of hurrah, you got this?
Yeah, I mean, I would think the thing that I think is really powerful to me, and it's really kind of, I said earlier, I have this sense of optimism, but I think the thing that I've been dealing with right now personally is just, there's so much stuff going on, trying to help the marketing team excel, trying to help our management team deal with crisis, trying to help, just individuals at Olark deal with changing circumstances in their lives now that their kids are home, or, their spouse might have lost their job or be on unemployment due to this recession. And I think, it's so easy to spend a lot of your time kind of really thinking and sprinting trying to like solve those problems. And I think that it's very, very important to take kind of a step back and think about what macro level multiplicative impact you can make. And I think the way I've been thinking about that is how can we channel some of this worry and this anxiety into like something positive. And I know the people on your teams are already doing this. They're already like creating this positivity, and I think it helps to call that out and show the positivity is coming out of situations like this. So I would I would sort of advise anyone kind of in a situation where they are feeling helpless or they're feeling like, oh, I don't really know what to do to make an impact right now, to look at the small actions you can take and look at ways in which you can elevate the heroes that are already working for you to uh, feel like they can make those actions and have those impacts. And uh, every little thing you can do there, I think, will help champion and change some of that worry and anxiety into feeling productive and useful and helpful. And I think at a time like this, that can be really powerful.
Awesome. I really appreciate that, Ben. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me and to share your wisdom and your thoughts and your single data point with the world. We're going to go ahead and make a few more of these videos with other Olarkers over time. If you have questions that you want to ask the team or that you're curious about, go ahead and throw them on Twitter or Facebook or wherever is comfortable for you, and we will be happy to get to those. Thank you so much.
Yeah. See ya. Thanks.